this year, in an attempt to reduce my watering, I bought black tubing, you can see it right here, and these little nozzles in hopes of making an indoor misting system so that I could water less. And it can't be too powerful because my growing area doesn't have any drainage. And so it has to basically stay on the plants and not get all over the room. The tubing is cut into whatever length I want it, and then the plastic pieces were inserted, like so you can see here it breaks, and then you just attach end to end. So basically it's a lot of little pieces of tubing connected with these nozzle connectors. The tubing comes down to a bucket, a 5-gallon bucket that has a sump pump in it. It's a 3rd horsepower, and then it feeds along. The major problem is, as you can tell, is that it basically doesn't distribute very much water at all. So I can get the first shelf, so you can see it dripping. I mean, it doesn't really spray, it drips. And you can see on this lower level, there's not even any water really coming out at all. Well, there's a little bit. So basically, as a watering system, I get like 1 shelf worth, and then the later shelves, you come over here and see there's basically no water going on at all. Nothing's coming out. So it really kind of doesn't work. I've got tubing strung out along the top here, but literally, as you can see from this end piece, where there's completely no water coming out, that top plants don't get water at all from the tubing that I've strung there. So I think it was a good experiment and an attempt to reduce workload for myself, but really it doesn't work. And I'll probably leave it here through the winter, but come spring, when I move everything out, I'll take it down and it won't come back up. So what I actually do, instead of using the misting system, is I actually water everything by hand. I use a wand. It's also attached to a hose. It goes back to that same orange bucket, and now it's connected to a pond pump. And then I basically spray each plant one by one, just like that. I have 500 or more orchids, and I used to water with a bucket and a cup. I would fill each semi-hydro pot one at a time with a cup, and it took forever. And so this is what I switched to when my collection got too large. I also go through and fill my 4 humidity trays that have foggers in them with water. I use tap water, so you can see. And you might be wondering how I get it so that the plants don't rot in here. And actually, the whole key with this is not pot too tightly. So a lot of the stuff is in moss, as you can tell, and I just basically loosely pack things. So see, here's this. It's sitting on moss, but it's not very tight. I can give it a little extra spritz. But everything is just very loosely packed in moss, and they basically, on the foggers, get watered 24/7. Well, actually not 24/7, it's 12 hours a day. The foggers turn on in the morning, and then they turn off at about 6 p.m. at night. And then everything else gets hand watered. I have a lot of stuff near the foggers that are off hanging that need a lot of misting, a lot of the mounts. So I use that to help it along. But really, everything that's in semi-hydro gets watered with this wand. The last thing I do, which I do basically for my mounts, is I go through with a hand sprayer, and yes, I hand mist all of them. Try to do it every day for the ones that need to be watered really frequently that are mounted, and there's no room for them on the foggers. If there's room, I put them on the foggers because then there's much more likely to get watered. But there we go. So I try not to grow a lot of mounts, but there are a few plants that really want to be mounted, and so these all get hand misted. And so that is my watering regimen. I only do the hand sprayer once a week if I can get around to it. Some years with Christmas, it's really busy. I only get to it like say once a month. So it gets really dry in here, but I try to keep my humidifiers filled every day. And right now I'm doing a pretty good job because you can tell from my vanilla that they are finding enough humidity in this area. So I'm not quite sure what to do with this Jenkinsia because it just won't bloom. So that is how I end up having to water by hand, because when I tried to make something a little bit more automated, it didn't work.